technology is useless until it's actually used by somebody. And so you need to really focus on that somebody using it. This debate has come up yet again with the AI side of things. So a lot of people are using, hyperscaler platforms and so on to do cool AI projects, generative AI and so on. But often what gets forgotten in those AI projects is the fact that it actually has to connect to the business, which often happens via your SAP system.
Thank you so much for joining another edition of The Never-Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement for companies running SAP. Today, we've got the pleasure of Timo Elliott. Timo, if you don't know him, I'm surprised because Timo is an innovation advocate, a tech splainer, and he is a force to be reckoned with in helping people understand technology. Timo, thanks so much for joining today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I know you had a fun moment recently where some of your work has found its way into the keynotes at Sapphire. And I think that only happens when it really strikes a chord. Can you share a little more about this?
Well, yes, I finally got into a keynote presentation, not directly, but indirectly. So I'm an innovation advocate or innovation evangelist. So most of my job involves working with customers, doing interviews, I'm a judge for the SAP Innovation Awards, doing lots of presentations at conferences around the world about the latest technology. But in this case, the Christian Klein's team reached out to ask me to do a cartoon, because I actually have my backup career, if you like, I am a published cartoonist. If anybody's interested, they can go to timoelliott.com and you will see the cartoons that I've been slowly and painfully trying to draw up for the last 30 years or so. And if you go on Google and search for analytics cartoons or innovation cartoons, my drawings should be among the first 5 or 6. So they reached out. They asked me to do a cartoon around the theme of change, and that made it into the Sapphire keynotes for both Orlando and Barcelona. Should we explain what the theme was actually in the cartoons?
Yes. Yeah, please do. I think it struck a chord, and I know it was a conversation piece within the audience and through the event. I think it's so close to home for so many people. For some people, maybe too close to home.
So the first cartoon is a leader talking to an audience saying, who wants change? And of course, everybody wants change. Change is a good thing. We all know that. And then the second panel is who wants to change? And everybody has their hands down. And there's just that huge gap. When it comes to anything to do with innovation, it's a great idea, but maybe it's somebody else's job or, innovation, great, you go first. So that is one of the constant themes that you and I assume and anybody watching has faced over the last decades when it comes to implementing technology. And it's still, to this day, one of the biggest challenges. It's never the technology. It's always the people and adoption side of things that are the biggest barriers.
Well, tonight on the news at 6, this just in, people, process, and technology all have to come in to make the thing work, right?
But such a new theme that nobody has never talked about before. But we're going to fix it on this podcast, right, Sean? You're going to tell us how to fix that, that problem.
Once and for all, we'll settle the argument. People matter. I've always found it entertaining that if you rewind 20 years ago, all of the methodology seemed to say that the technology is solved and we have the best practice process, so we will manage this onto the people, and they will adopt it because we told them to and we pay them.
We will throw technology at them and they will like it or lump it.
Because we pay their salaries and we told them so. And I think we saw that really didn't work so well. I think this really epitomizes how and why the technology is not that hard. The process isn't too bad, but the people are hard. And this is the difference between the technical analyst and the leaders that really move the needle, isn't it?
It is. And to be sure, the technology is hard. It takes a lot of time. And that's one of the reasons why we don't have time left for the people side of things. And most of us, if we're in this industry, let's face it, it's because we're geeks on the inside. We like the technology. We're interested in the technology. And if we have a choice between doing some cool technology stuff or doing a whole bunch of things to do with people that we're not necessarily comfortable doing, I think a lot of people tend to swerve towards the technology. It's one of the things. I do believe that one of the things that people need to do is just be a little more transparent about what they do and don't like in their jobs. And if you're an IT leader and you don't necessarily want to go out and hang out with the business people all the time, that's absolutely fine. But you should hire somebody on your team or as part of the business team to go and do that on your behalf. Like somebody needs to do that role. It doesn't have to be you. You don't have to force yourself to do something you hate, but you just need to make sure as a leader that that role is covered by somebody.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a natural gravitation of people that like the certainty of technology or like the certainty of accounting. And there's a shudder to admit there's parallels between accountants and technologists. And the certainty that comes with the ones and zeros are part of what people find comfort in. Is there's a certainty, and the unpredictability, the messiness of people is not something that some of the best technologists really need to worry too much about. But I think this is where we get into that bridge of how do you create more value? And we don't get to do that only through better technology or only through better process, but through the three of them coming together. And it's that third one that's the trickiest.
Well, technology is useless until it's actually used by somebody. And so you need to really focus on that somebody using it. This debate has come up yet again with the AI side of things. So a lot of people are using, hyperscaler platforms and so on to do cool AI projects, generative AI and so on. But often what gets forgotten in those AI projects is the fact that it actually has to connect to the business, which often happens via your SAP system. And so the analysts say that something like 90% plus of proof of concepts of AI projects never actually go production for these reasons, for adoption and data. And you said like the certainty of data. I've worked in data for over 30 years, and I've got to tell you, it's pretty messy as well. There's a lot of fiction when it comes to those hard numbers. But yes, it's a different
data quality,
type of uncertainty. Yeah. Hands up if you have a data quality problem. Yeah. But obviously it is very different. There isn't a company on the planet that doesn't have a data quality problem. It's just whether we admit it or not. And but it is obviously completely different from the human side of things. So yeah, we have to focus on the point of business contact, which is people using your technology doing something different.
One of my favorite examples came from one of the other guests on the show, as she was sharing how an organization was so confident in the quality of their data. She went to go meet with a couple of people, and then they said, oh, I don't know, we always just pick M for miscellaneous. And this idea of how many things were misfiled, miscategorized, because people were a little overwhelmed with all the various choices. And when it's hard, people will find an easy way, not necessarily the way that was intended or the way that was designed or the way that results in great quality. And I think this is one of those concepts that, to me, this never-ending climb is all about people leaving themselves and the world around them better than they found it. And I think this is something where, in your experience, I have to imagine that there's some things that you've found, like on your heart, you just wish more people would focus on or would make time and space for, so that could level up, so it has room to grow and improve. So a little extra food, water, and fertilizer. What's on your heart, Timo, that you really wish more people would?
There are a few different areas, but you just reminded me of one big one. So when I talk to, I interview customers about their innovation projects, and I often ask the question, now that you know what you know, having completed the project, what would you have spent more time on in advance? And the answer is almost always the same. I would have spent more time integrating and cleaning data. But if I do have one thing that I'd like to really mention, just 30 seconds, is that the biggest misconception when it comes to innovation projects, which always require data, is that data quality is a technical problem. It is not a technical problem. It is always a reflection of broken business processes and incentives. IT cannot fix data quality problems. There's some trivial things that, yes, you can try and mend some of the bad data quality coming in, but ultimately it's a business problem. And one of the key things that IT leaders need to do is push back and make sure that the onus is on the right people to fix the problem. Now, the business people don't care. Like data quality, who cares? But this is where the big point I'd like to make about is you need to be able to explain it in a way that they understand and care about. And that is a very valuable skill. That there's one thing that I think IT organizations should invest in. It's the communication skills. I'm a little bit biased, but evangelism is a good term for it. It's explaining the new possibilities in the technology and the business outcomes in a way that the business people can get their heads around. Now, there's lots of ways of doing that. Pointing to other people who have already done it, right? It is a great way of doing it, letting them explain it to the benefit. But it's something that I've really noticed over the last few years in particular, that to become a senior leader, a CIO in an organization, increasingly you look at the key skill that differentiates that person from the others that might have been candidates for the job. It's their communication skills. It's their ability to talk business, to generate enthusiasm, to talk about opportunities, not just efficiencies and cost savings.
There's an element of inspiration and a sense of purpose, and driving relentlessly for cost savings is very difficult to feel excited and warm and fuzzy about getting out of bed in the morning. Not just new ways to save money, but new ways of working to create and unlock potential, I think, is one of those things that people genuinely do get inspired about. And that only comes about when the leader creates the space and offers that sense of inspiration to give that opportunity to grow. And I love that you're highlighting that, because there's a lot of people that are early in their career and they're thinking, do I move ahead in my career? How do I do that? I want to get promoted. I want to make more money. I want to da 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 da. And then some of those people find that they don't particularly like working with people, but they feel like they have to move into a managerial leadership role so that they can make more money. A lot of organizations actually have a technical career path and a leadership career path. And one of them does take you further away from the technology and offers significant rewards and significant impact. And another one keeps you sometimes on a similar potential pay scale to a large extent, but has a more individual contributor technical component to it. And I've met and worked with quite a few people that they've gotten up the leadership side of things only to realize they're leaning their ladder up against the wrong wall. And it's not something that they love. And so they find themselves wanting to get back closer to technology, which is a comfort space. Again, it's often simpler.
The good news, at least in our industry, is you can still make a fair amount of money being an expert in technology and project management. But it's true that there are rewards to managing people. There always will be. If you're leading large teams of resources, inevitably you're going to make a bigger difference than you could as a technical individual. But honestly, it's up to each individual. I actually tried to manage teams for a while. I was terrible at it. I didn't enjoy it. So I'm an individual contributor, and I'm absolutely fine with that. You don't have to necessarily climb the career ladder.
I think that's a wonderful example, because you've been so successful and you've been able to create a space where there's the combination of communication and evangelism and technical savvy, technical capability, and yet you've deliberately leaned your ladder up against a wall where you have a unique skill. And I applaud you for that, because you're able to make a difference in ways that in some cases many leaders cannot, right? You have a sense of reach, of reputation, of a voice to go and share ideas. And that's a really, really powerful tool. So I applaud what you've done, because very similar to a few other folks, Josh Bentley or others, there'll be people I'm sure come up to you too and say, how do I do what you do? And they're inspired by what you do, because they see that you've created a path leading up that wall where you're able to make a huge difference, add value, and do things that you love, that give you energy. And so
I was going to say I really enjoy my role, which is not everybody can say they really enjoy their jobs. And so how do people do this? Well, clearly they have to work on their cartoon skills. Get into the keynote. Just the other anecdote is the other day, Elon Musk tweeted out one of my fairly niche statistic cartoons, and I just checked. That's been seen by 48 million people. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Elon Musk, but it's
high
kind of
five.
interesting that my cartoon got to in front of that many people with his help.
That's the sort
That's
of reach.
clearly the
You struck
closest
a
thing I'll
chord.
ever get to internet fame.
Timo, I am so grateful for you joining and shining your light, sharing your wisdom with the team, with the audience. Any closing thoughts circling around on that idea of people, of change, communication? Any closing thoughts that you'd like to leave people with as we land the plane here?
One level is a little trite, but really, I still encourage people to follow their passion. And you don't necessarily want to force yourself to listen to other advice if it's not what you're where you find your best experience. But just as a leader, make sure that that role is covered, even if it's not by you. And honestly, I think it's a great opportunity for people to get better at their storytelling skills. And it's a fantastic feeling when you can make a difference, not just through your technical skills, but by helping people understand the latest technologies and do the right thing for the business.
Sharing ideas, making them memorable. Timo, thank you so much. Really grateful for you joining today. And this has been another edition of the Never Ending Climb for a stronger supply chain and procurement for companies running SAP. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
A real pleasure. Bye.